Hello, everyone and no one, and welcome to. I don't know what I'm going to call this, but I like the little pondering the orb thing. It's mostly because it's a thought process going on, so I'll figure out some sort of a working title and if this is even going to go anywhere later on. But due to a recent video I did going over YouTube comments that I was in, which typically tends to relate to gun stuff, of where I get the most interaction or the most people that want to talk to me or go off on some weird thing or whatever. But these mixture of, I put this together of the comments that there was, you know, a whole thing of basically saying that, if you're going to do something, that it shouldn't be borrowed or lent or given to you. It should be bought by your own spondoolies. And they were going over how there's a lot of YouTube channels that will borrow firearms and how for some odd reason that is such a bad thing. And I've thought about this before because for some odd reason, it's only certain things that we tend to be like, oh, no, no, no. For these, you have to buy them yourself. And guns are part of that way, but not entirely. Because there's plenty of people in the gun community that have borrowed firearms from others that no one tends to get mad about. I mean, no one gets mad at Ian McCullum from Forgotten Weapons going to an auction house or a museum to talk about guns that aren't made anymore or quite literally cannot be bought for less than an exorbitant amount of money and just aren't practical to even fire because they could be destroying themselves for how old they are. Or they're completely illegal to own or only military grade, or it's like only owned by the military because of certain set things, or they were only owned by some specific small subset of a military from a different country and others never saw wide production. We don't get mad at that. We don't get mad at Grand Thumb for going through and borrowing one of, I think, the only two AN-94s so he can do a review on it. Like, I can kind of understand the production line portion of it, but it's always something that kind of threw me off. Because if you're like, oh, you should never be borrowed or given guns, and that whole situation, it's like, well, what's the context in this? We have to go a bit further. Now, I'm going into things that the gentleman probably wasn't actually going into, and he meant predominantly YouTubers, that they shouldn't be borrowing equipment. Well, then that has to extend further. Where does this line of thought process stop? Do we have to look at car tubers or car shows in general that have borrowed vehicles because, well, some of those are very rare and never to be seen in most cases? Kind of like the guys from Top Gear, the original variation of the show. I haven't really seen as much of it, but some of the cars were theirs. A lot of the cars were borrowed. No one got pissed off about that. It's always just been a strange thing I've looked into of, for some odd reason, on only set specific things, if you didn't buy that yourself, all of a sudden you're a fake or a phony and your opinion should be irrelevant. But on other things, oh, well, yeah, they had to borrow it. Well, what is it? Does context actually matter in it, or is this something that we shouldn't care about? Like, I can understand where a lot of this started, which was way back with the gun tuber, Iraq Vet 8888, who was doing paid reviews, which a lot of people didn't really care about too much until it got brought up more of it that they had to be paid X amount, supplied with X amount of firearms in case there was a malfunction, so that way they could go through and give the firearm a glowing review. And other YouTubers I've seen are the gun tuber community, people don't really get as mad about. I mean, from what I've seen, no one really ever got mad at Hickok 45 for being like, hey, most of the guns we're reviewing we got from Bud's Guns, except for the one Mauser broom handle we got that a viewer of Hickok 45 had let him borrow. It's always just been one of those kind of weird things to me. When is it okay to borrow a gun or to borrow equipment that you're going to be reviewing? And when isn't it okay? Does it have to do with, and does it have any prerequisites of what has to be done? From what I've seen, most of the people in the firearms community are okay with it as long as it's brought up. Like, no one has really given, like, Tim from Military Arms channel or Such from his Such 00 or Double Aught channel for saying, hey, I have this gun for test and evaluation. No one's gotten mad, again, like I said, Hickok 45 or Nuttin Fancy from getting his stuff from Gunny's, the Great American Gun Store, or whatever it was called. I think I got that one right, but I'm not sure. And I've never really understood it. It's like, okay, yeah, some people want to portray themselves as having more. I mean, yes, if they're going through and being like, oh yeah, this is my cool new gun, and then it's actually not theirs, it's borrowed, it's like, okay, you're being disingenuous. But if you've gone through and like, yeah, I got to borrow this gun for, or this item or equipment for X amount of time to review it, what's really so bad about it? I guess this is just me looking into things that aren't really as necessary or prevalent, but it was just a thought process that hit. So I kind of just wanted to make a video out of it since I've been thinking about it quite literally all week and hadn't had much time to do anything until today. I think that's going to about cover it. Have a good one. Thanks for watching and whatnot. Later, folks.